Hello again, Internet. It is that time once again to read the Bible. Alright, so it's January 19th. We will begin with Genesis chapter 39, verse 1 to chapter 41, verse 16.
When Joseph arrived in Egypt as a captive of the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased from them by Potiphar, member of the personal staff of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now this man Potiphar was the captain of the king's bodyguard and his chief executioner. The Lord greatly blessed Joseph there in the home of his master, so that everything he did succeeded. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph in a very special way. Now Joseph naturally became quite a favorite with him. Soon he was put in charge of the administration of Potiphar's household and all his business affairs. At once the Lord began blessing Potiphar for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs began to run smoothly. His crops flourished and his flocks multiplied. So Potiphar gave Joseph the complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. He had no worry in the world with Joseph there, except to decide what he wanted to eat. Joseph, by the way, was a very handsome young man. One day, about this time, Potiphar's wife began making eyes at Joseph and suggested that he come and sleep with her. Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in the entire household. He himself has no more authority here than I have, except he has held back nothing from me except you yourself, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing as this? It would be a great sin against God. But she kept on with her suggestions day after day, even though he refused to listen, kept out of her way as much as possible. Then one day she was in the house going about his work. As it happened, no one else was around at this time. She came and grabbed him by the sleeve, demanding, "Sleep with me." But he tore himself away. But as he did, his jacket slipped off and she was left holding it as he fled from the house. When she saw that she had his jacket and he had fled, she began screaming. And when the other men around the place came running in to see what would happen, she was crying hysterically. My husband had to bring in this Hebrew slave to insult us, she sobbed. He tried to rape me, but when I screamed, he ran. Forgot to take his jacket. She kept the jacket. When her husband came home that night, she told him her story. That's just a shame right there. That Hebrew slave you had around here tried to rape me, and I was only saved by my screams. He fled, leaving behind this jacket. Well, when her husband heard his wife's story, he was furious. He threw Joseph into prison, but the king's prisoners were kept in chains. But the Lord was with Joseph there too, and was kind to him by granting him favor with the chief jailer. In fact, the jailer soon handed over the entire prison administration to Joseph, so that all the other prisoners were responsible to him. The chief jailer had no more worries after that, for Joseph took care of everything, and the Lord was with him so that everything ran smoothly and well. Some time later, it so happened that the king of Egypt became angry with both his chief baker and his chief butler. So he jailed them both in prison where Joseph was, in the castle of Potiphar, to the captain of the guard, who was the chief executioner, as we have said several times at this point. They remained under arrest there for quite some time, and Potiphar assigned Joseph to wait on them. One night, each of them had a dream.
Sorry, my brain stopped for a moment there. I just feel like they skipped the part where Joseph was let out of jail and back in Potiphar's good graces. Maybe I missed some. Let me see. Okay, no, I missed the part where it was the baker and butler were in prison in the same prison Joseph was. That was why I got confused for a moment. I apologize. Anyway, the butler and the baker they remained under arrest there for quite some time, and Potiphar assigned Joseph to wait on them. One night, each of them had a dream. And the next morning, Joseph noticed that they looked dejected and sad. "What in the world's the matter?" he asked. And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but there was no one here to tell us what they mean." "Interpreting dreams is God's business," Joseph replied. "Tell me what you saw." Butler told his dream first. "In my dream," he said, "I saw a vine with 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and soon there were clusters of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took the grapes and squeezed the juice into it and gave it to him to drink." "I know what that dream means," Joseph said. "The 3 branches mean 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh is going to take you out of prison and give you back your job again as his chief butler. And please have some pity on me when you are back in his favor, and mention me to Pharaoh and ask him to let me out of here. For I was kidnapped from my homeland among the Hebrews, and now here I am in jail when I did nothing to deserve it." When the chief baker saw that the first dream had such a good meaning, he told his dream to Joseph too. "In my dream," he said, "there were 3 baskets of pastries on my head. In the top basket were all kinds of bakery goods for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate 'em." "The 3 baskets mean 3 days," Joseph told him. "3 days from now, Pharaoh will take off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will come and pick off your flesh. Well, that ain't good news, is it?" Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he held a party for all his officials and household staff. He sent for his chief butler and chief baker, and they were brought to him from the prison. Then he restored the chief butler to his former position, but he sentenced the chief baker to be impaled, just as Joseph had predicted. Pharaoh's wine taster, however, promptly forgot all about Joseph, never giving him a thought. One night, 2 years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River, when suddenly 7 sleek, fat cows came up out of the river and began grazing in the grass. The 7 other cows came up from the river, but they were very skinny. All their ribs stood out. They went over and stood beside the fat cows. Then the skinny cows ate the fat ones, at which point Pharaoh woke up. Soon he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain on one stalk, with every kernel well formed and plump. Then suddenly 7 more heads appeared on the stalk, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. And these thin heads swallowed up the 7 plump, well formed heads. And Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was all a dream. Next morning, as he thought about it, he became very concerned as to what the dreams might mean. He called for all the magicians and sages of Egypt and told them about it, but none of them could suggest what his dream meant. Then the king's wine taster spoke up. "Today I remember my sin," he said. "Some time ago, when you were angry with a couple of us and put me and the chief baker, rest his soul." I had to add that, I'm sorry. Me and the chief baker in jail in the castle of the captain of the guard. The chief baker and I each had a dream one night. We told the dreams to a young Hebrew fellow there who was a slave for a captain of the guard. He told us what our dreams meant, and everything happened just as he said. I was restored to my position of wine taster, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Pharaoh sent at once for Joseph. He was brought hastily from the dungeon, and after a quick shave and a change of clothes, came in before Pharaoh. I had a dream last night, Pharaoh told him. None of these men here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that you can interpret dreams, and that is why I've called for you. I can't do it by myself, Joseph replied, but God will tell me what it means. I think I did all right with that. I was doing kind of an Andy Griffith. I hope I did him justice. So, let's see. What should I do for Matthew? Hmm, done a lot of generic accents. Done Disney. I guess I could do Australian. Why not? As Jesus was speaking in a crowded house with his mother, his brothers were outside, wanting to talk with him. When someone told him they were there, he remarked, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" He pointed to his disciples. "Look," he said, "these are my mother and my brothers." Then he added, "Anyone who obeys my Father in heaven is my brother, sister, and mother." Later that same day, Jesus left the house and went down to the shore, where an immense crowd soon gathered. He got in a boat and taught them from while people listened on the beach. He used many illustrations, such as this one in this here sermon. A farmer was sowing grain in his fields, and he scattered the seeds across the ground. Some fell beside a path, and the birds came and ate it. And some fell on rocky soil where there was little depth of earth. The plants sprang up quickly enough in the shallow soil. The hot sun soon scorched them, and they withered and died, for they had so little root. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns choked out the tender blades. But some fell on good soil, and produced a crop that was 30, 60, even 100 times as much as he had planted. If you have ears, listen. His disciples came and asked him, "Why do you always use these hard to understand illustrations?" The word I am accustomed to being used here is parable. It is the most common way Jesus tends to implement wisdom to us. So, you know, if you ever heard that word, that's what it's referring to. Now, back to the tale. Then he, meaning Jesus, explained to them that only they were permitted to understand about the kingdom of heaven, and others were not. For to him who has will more to be given. I said that horribly. Let me try again. For to him who has will more be given, he told them, and he will have great plenty. But from him who has not, even the little he has will be taken away. That is why I use these illustrations. So people will hear and see, but not understand. This fulfills the prophecy of Isaiah. They hear, but they don't understand. Probably like a lot of you who don't know how to understand this accent that I'm making up, mostly from Mick Dundee and various movies. And good old Steve Owen, God rest his soul. Anyway, they hear, but they don't understand. They look, but they don't see. For their hearts are fat and heavy, and their ears are dull, and they have closed their eyes in sleep, so they won't see and hear and understand and turn to God again, and let me heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your eyes and your ears, for they hear. Many a prophet and godly man has longed to see what you've seen and hear what you've heard, but couldn't. Now, here's the explanation of the story I told about the farmer planting grain. The hard path where some of the seeds fell represents the heart of a person who hears the good news about the kingdom and doesn't understand it. In Satan comes and snatches away the seeds from his heart. The shallow, rocky soil represents the heart of a man who hears the message and receives it with real joy, but he doesn't have much depth in his life, and his seeds don't root very deeply. And after a while, when trouble comes, persecution begins because of his beliefs, his enthusiasm fades, and he drops out. The ground covered with thistles represents a man who hears a message, but the cares of this life and his longing for money choke out God's word, and he does less and less for God. The good ground represents the heart of a man who listens to the message and understands it and goes out and brings 30, 60, or even 100 others into the kingdom. I hope you enjoyed that. That was Matthew. What was the chapters and verse again? Chapter 12, verse 46 to chapter 13, verse 23. All right, now we move on to Psalms. What to do for Psalms? I don't know. I'm pleading for your help, O Lord, for I have been honest and have done what is right, and you must listen to my earnest cry. Publicly acquit me, Lord, for you are always fair. You have tested me and seen that I am good. You have come even in the night and found nothing amiss, and know that I have told the truth. I have followed your commands and have not gone along in the cruel and evil men. My feet had not slipped from your path. Why am I praying then? Because I know you will answer me, O God. Yes, listen as I pray. Show me your strong love in wonderful ways. O Savior of all those seeking your help against the foes, protect me as you would the pupil of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings as you hover over me. My enemies encircle me with murder in their eyes. They are pitiless and arrogant. Listen to their boasting. They close in on me and are ready to throw me to the ground. They are like lions, eager to tear me apart, like young lions hiding and waiting their chance. Lord, arise, stand against them, but push them back. Come and save me from these men in a world whose only concern is earthly gain. These men whom you have filled with your treasures so that their children and grandchildren are rich and prosperous. But as for me, my contentment is not in wealth, but in seeing you and knowing all is well between us. And when I awake in heaven, I will be fully satisfied, for I will see you face to face. That one started off as just kind of a generic deep voice, and it started to get a little Cajun there at the end. I don't know. I'm not as happy with that one. But it's fine. It's fine. Last for today is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 33 through 35. The curse of God is on the wicked, but the blessings is on the upright. The Lord mocks all at mockers, but helps the humble. The ways are promoted to honor, but fools are promoted to shame. That one I like better. All right. That's all for tonight. I wish you all a good evening. Thank you for listening, and God bless.